Good afternoon, and thank you for coming to our webinar, EASYProcess from KRI Systems, the low-code platform built for JD Edwards. All of you are in listen-only mode. If you have questions, please use the chat. We will answer all the questions at the end. So let's get started. What are we going to cover today? The one, legitimate question, why should we build new systems on top of JDE? And we'll talk about it. And we'll talk about, as I said in our notifications, what are the risks in doing development today, custom development today? Thirdly, we'll talk about what we bring to the JD Edwards community. We'll do a demonstration, we'll tell you how to get started, and we'll have time for Q&A. So to answer the first question, why should people build new systems on top of JDE? This is a quote I like. It's from Gartner, but it's very valid. There is no competitive advantage. If you have an ERP and 10,000 other companies have an ERP, they have the same piece. They have the same functions. You have to build new systems if you want to use IT in a competitive way, if you want to do that. And not only that, if you have a back office ERP and you want to make it a front office ERP, there's a requirement to build new custom systems on top of it. To go digital in a back office world, you have to build new systems. So outside of just IT competitive advantage, just the tenor in the marketplace is to build more digital systems, more customer-facing systems, and it's required today to do. But don't just believe Gartner, right? JD Edwards wants you to build new custom systems. They wanted you to for a while, ever since Orchestrator came out, and even before then. And if you don't believe this slide, right, believe this slide. These are both from JD Edwards presentations. They don't want you to customize the inside of the system anymore. They want you to get to vanilla. And to get to vanilla, you need to take your customizations outside of JD Edwards and put them in new systems. And that's important. So JD Edwards is telling you to do it. Gartner is telling you to do it. It's not just us. We're just a pathway in to do this. So let's talk about addressing the hurdles that we talked about a little bit earlier. First one being integration to your core systems. How do I integrate? How can I integrate? How can I make it easier? Second is development speed. If I'm doing some digital initiatives, even if it's just building a single mobile app, I need to do it fast. There are more ideas coming in to the IT department than there are people to actuate on them. So we need to get things out the door. We need to get them out quickly, and we need to get them out reliably. This talks about overall risk of doing custom projects. Can I get a custom project out the door safely and know it's going to be there with the right security in place? So let's talk about all three of those things. First is integration to your core systems. And this is another quote from Gartner, but I think it's really valid. If you're doing digital initiatives, right, you have to keep the core in mind, because people are still going to be using the core systems for some time to come. Most digital initiatives are for customers, but you can't build it separately, right? If you isolate the core system, the data will start to falter. It will starve the core. So keeping that core and keeping the data flowing into the core, into your system of record, is critically important. How do we address that? And I have a slide here that talks about our architecture, and I'm going to bring it up a couple different times over the course of the presentation, just to build it and address each issue, pardon me, as we build it. So we talk about, let's start at the bottom here, your enterprise applications. So we have data, logic, REST and SOAP services, custom APIs that you've written, unstructured data, security and identity management. These are all important things. They're stored or housed in or near your enterprise applications today. So when we install EASYProcess, what do? We actually connect to all of this, but this is kind of an abstract. So let's talk about specifically JD Edwards and really hone in on what we do with JD Edwards. What do we connect to with JD Edwards when we install the software? So we can connect to your data dictionary, so we know all your tables, the business functions, BSSV if you're still using that, Orchestrator, named event rules, all the little nuances that JD Edwards brings in, right? Status codes, Julian date conversions, media objects, UDCs, Z files. Our platform can interact with all of them. So just from the basic stuff to knowing your tables, all the way through media objects, UDCs, and Julian date conversions. So we can address that hurdle of integration really easily and really elegantly. We've been doing it for 15 years. So let's talk about what's next from a development perspective. Now that I've integrated, I can integrate to my core, right? The next part is speed. And we're developing new forms, new mobile apps, new sets of systems, new web apps. We're at a really interesting point in time in our lives in a UI development perspective. There is too much. The paradox of choice. There are so many different languages and frameworks and initiatives and UIs, and it's just growing and growing and growing. And you end up getting stuck in one particular stack or another. It just becomes too much. And you can do analysis paralysis and figuring out which set of 4 languages you're going to do to write a singular application. And it can become the point where you're hiring more and more people just to know specific skills. And it's too much. And we get away from that. And let's go back to our, what we do and what we do well, because we don't want you to be this guy. And I'll tell you why. And this is a God's honest truth. No user cares what an application is written in. They don't. All they care is that it works. So don't bother yourself with picking all the frameworks and all the languages out. We can get around that. So let's go back to our architecture and talk about, specifically what we bring to the table. This is back to the EASYProcess piece. I've integrated now. What does EASYProcess have in this regard? So we have 4 main components: a logic engine, a workflow engine, a data modeler, and a UI and UX designer. None of these involve writing code. It's all drag and drop, and I'm going to show it to you in a second, and Ben is going to show it to you when he does the demonstration. We also have a gallery, and a gallery is a place where we store components, parts of applications, screens, completed applications, tutorials. So beyond our training, there's a place where people can share components and share data, share information about building applications, as well as the license pieces we have. Everything you write in our UI and UX designer can be deployed to web and mobile, including native, REST and SOAP services, as well as batch jobs. And as I said this earlier, but I will say it again, writing applications, writing the forms for these involves no code. Right? And I have a couple images I'm going to show you. So here's our drag and drop designer. And you can see I'm designing a screen, and I have up at the top, I have ways I can design it. And on the bottom here, I have actions and buttons, text boxes, links, charts, graphs, validations, widgets. All these things get dragged onto the form. And as you're dragging it on, you can put operators in for it to do what you want, from the simplest to a label, all the way up through some complex logic. And then when you want to look and see what it looks like, I go to phone view or desktop view. This is what it looks like on a phone, what I just dragged and dropped. This is what it looks like on a desktop. So when I want to do logic, we have a logic builder. There are 400 services in our logic builder. The average developer uses about 8. So I take these logic services here, and all I do is add operators to them. And when I do that, it does the rest for me. So if you can understand how a flow goes, and you can understand how to drag and drop a screen to design it, you can develop applications in EASYProcess. Since we've done all the integration beforehand, all you're really doing is designing the screen and adding any additional logic that you need to make the screen talk to the database, or the screen talk to Orchestrator, or the screen talk to your business functions. It's just that simple. So much so, we're going to do a live demonstration to show you that. So we think we can get development speed taken care of and eliminate the paradox of choice by allowing you just to do this in a drag and drop way. But let's talk about the whole thing. the entire software development lifecycle, because there's more to it than just coding the application. Safety and security of developing custom products, addressing the risk of doing this is important. And I think we have a very good solution for that. But to do that, we just first need to talk about the elephant in the room. A project is more than just code. It's one thing to get a change request and say, oh, we just got to develop the application. There's more to it. There's the stakeholders, and there's business objectives, the project requirements, hardware, networking, infrastructure, security involved, IT operations, project management. Then you develop the application. Then you have testing and go live and feedback. All these pieces are a part of the project. There's so many moving parts. So what can we do as a company and as a platform provider for JD Edwards to help you mitigate this? And I think we do a pretty good job of it. We lower that risk by eliminating some of these variables. So everything you do in EASYProcess is done in the cloud. So we can get rid of networking, infrastructure, and hardware. So you don't have to worry about that anymore. We have Inbuilt Devops. So you talk about security, operations, project management, testing, go live, feedback. It's all taken care of our DevOps. And with our drag and drop environment, you're not actually developing the application. So we take all of those components and all those variables and put it in a singular platform, a singular place to do all of this work. I'm going to take just a little bit of a deeper dive into DevOps so we have a really good understanding, a foundational understanding of what we do. When we talk about planning an application, right, I can write in the requirements of an application. I can add pictures, images. I can do all of those things that are necessary to start allocating tasks to developers who are then writing the application. Everything we do is a single-click deployment between environments. Testers do their testing. We deploy to one click as well. People using the application, right? And then we have monitoring built in as well. The monitoring can give you feedback on when are these people using the application? Are they stopping at some point? Are they abandoning at some point? So you can get feedback for the next cycle. All of this can be one person or hundreds of people, depending on the size and the security parameters of your IT department. So if you don't want developers to promote, they can't. If you don't want testers access to production, they won't have it. And we have a built-in security module that takes care of all of this for you. So back to our architecture slide. At the bottom, we talked about all the things we integrate to, right? Here in this part, we talked about our data modeler, our UI and UX designer for form painting and putting logic on screens. And here's that final piece is the DevOps, where we have project management, task tracking, source control, and production monitoring all built in. We have dashboards for project management, so you can see instantly where every one of your projects is. Is it in dev? Is it in test? Is it in production? And from the projects, you can see where all the tasks are. And you can see who's doing those tasks, so who's assigned to those pieces. So any management person can get an instant health check on any part of their portfolio. And once again, I'll go back to this, it's not writing code. So in this demonstration, we're going to show you in a little bit, we're not going to write code at all. So we have this integrated platform and a no-code environment. We want to talk about elevating the capabilities of everyone here. So you can have developers use our software, they can take to it quickly, but we can also have business analysts and CNCs use this as well. Those are not having to actually write code out. And those are the people who know the business well, who know the database well, and know what needs to take place. Can we make their job easier? Can we make them or enable them to develop applications? And with a couple of days of training, they can get started. And here's a quote from one of our customers who talks kind of just about that. So they don't have developers at Wombly. They have business analysts, but the analysts know the business really well. So they don't have to be coders now. All they have to do is, I want to create a new form. I'm going to drag and drop the fields I want on that form, or I want to create a query. I want to query the tables that are inside JD Edwards, whether they're Oracle or SQL tables or even DB2, it doesn't matter. We have access to all of them, and you can create everything you're looking for without ever writing a line of code. So those are the 3 hurdles, right? We talked about integration and how well we integrate the JD Edwards. We talked about speed and how with a drag and drop environment, you can cut your development time to a fraction of what it would be in traditional ways. And we talked about security and risk and how our built-in DevOps and one-click deployments make developing applications much safer than they were even a few years ago. So let's talk about what we're going to develop. So I have a scenario to explain to you. So a while ago, we built a CRM for the sales reps. And the CRM has customers, and this is coming from JD Edwards, and a bunch of other things. Like it accesses Google Maps, so you can see where the customer is located on a map. I can go back to JD Edwards and get their orders and lines if I wanted to. I can look up who's who, call people, add notes, add new contacts. I can look at sales data history in a chart. I can even look up their quotes. And on top of that, we can even access unstructured data. So here's some brochures. And it's integrated right now via direct data access for the queries and business functions for all the updates. But the one thing it doesn't do, you can't create an order in front of a customer. So one of our sales reps, namely me, wrote a note to our IT department to say, I would love to be able to place an order in front of a customer. Can I do that? It needs to support multiple lines. It needs to work on my phone. And I need to be able to get this done. Can you do this for me? And yeah, we want to. So let's do it. But doing this with business functions would be kind of time consuming. But lucky for us, right? Here comes Orchestrator. We have Orchestrator ourselves. We ran the macro. The macro generated the fields for us that we needed. We finished that up, and it generated the JSON string. Now, if you've never seen what Orchestrator generates, this is it. This is what Ben is going to show you in the demonstration. So we're going to build a new screen that's going to take multiple lines and add item and quantity, extended price, and call Orchestrator to put it in JD Edwards. I'm going to show it to you in the next 15 or so minutes. So my part's done. I'm going to pass it over. I'm going to stop sharing and allow Ben to share his screen. And then we can walk through the whole development cycle.
Okay, so here I have the IT manager's inbox here. And this is the exact email that Grant was just showing in his slides there. And so as soon as we get this, I'm going to go ahead and copy the body of this email. And I'm going to log into the IDE for the CRM application that he showed. So here I am, got the IT manager login. And so this is the IDE for the CRM application. As you can see, we're greeted with a big menu here. We have stuff for security, user management, development, setup for the application. But since we're the IT manager,
it is worth noting, everything you do in EASYProcess is done through a browser. We do not have a client-side application. It is all web-based.
Mm-hmm. Right. And yes, since we're the IT manager, we got that new request there. We want to start in this project management menu here, and we're going to add a new job, actually. So we'll call it CRM Phase 2. Go ahead and copy that into the description there. So now we have a new job defined, and then we can add a task to that job. And this task is going to be that new sales order page request that we got in the email. So sales order page, and then we can define it to that new job that we just created. And it's going to be a feature. I'm going to assign it to dev1. And then the body here is going to be the body of this email. Copy that. Paste it here. And then if they also included some images or something like that in the email, we can attach them to this task here. But since they didn't, we're just going to submit it as is. All right, so the new task has been created. As dev1, they are going to get an email here, basically stating exactly what we put in that task description. So I'm going to log out and log back in as dev1 and get started on the task. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is go to this icon up here, which is the developer workbench. This is essentially where all the development of the application takes place. So here I can add a new project. I can add that task to the project. And then it'll show up in this drop down right here, sales order page. And while we're in here, we can check out different objects of the application, different web pages, widgets, methods. You can share projects with other developers here. As you can see, there's my checkout objects and other people's checkout objects. So one of the requirements for this page was that it supported multiple lines. And so developer one, let's say they're aware of a page like that already exists, which is in the gallery here. So
and we do have customers that every time they get a change request, the first place they look is gallery. Does this already exist?
Right, and so, yeah, these are all the objects in the gallery. We have applications, we have components. So I'm going to go ahead and search for that that page here called an infinite lines list. We can click on info here to get more information about the page. Once we're sure that this is what we want to add to our application, we can click on this install button. And then, yeah, it'll be added to our application. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to the CRM app. Go back to our workbench and our project. And I'm going to click on this add existing button here. So this adds pages or different objects that already exist within the application. So under type here, you can see all the different types of objects that we can have: a template, what web pages, widgets, methods, workflows. The list goes on here. But in this case, we want to check out two pages, which are our web pages. The first page that we're checking out is the submit sales order, which is that infinite lines list that we saw earlier. Then we also want to check out the customers page as well, so that we can add a hyperlink to that page to direct to this new submit sales order page. Close out of this window. The first thing I'm going to show you is this customers web page. And this is the web part canvas for the customer's web page, and I can go to desktop view, so you can see the page that it generates. And here it is. Yeah, it's essentially a long list of customers. We have some hyperlinks on the side that direct to different things. We're going to add another link here to submit sales orders. So go back to our canvas, and we'll go back to the submit sales order page here. And this is the page that was installed from the gallery. Here's the web part canvas for it, and I'll go into desktop view so you can see how it works. Yeah, this is the infinite lines page. So I'll add an item number, quantity, and then I'll click save. And then JDE is queried to get the description of that item number and the unit price of the item number. And then that unit price and the inputted quantity are used to calculate the extended price over here. And then we can keep on going on and adding more items to this list. And yeah, it works like that. So the only couple of things that we need to add to this web page are a header here to add some header information that'll go into the Orchestrator function. And then we need a submit button at the bottom here to actually call the Orchestrator function. So I'm going to go back to our canvas and add those parts. So we can add another row to this table up top. And I also want to add another row at the bottom here. So at the top, we're going to split it. We're going to use a table to split up the header a little bit. So we can add multiple text boxes here. Drop the first text box here. This is going to be our address number. And if I click on this text box, we can define some properties here. So we can define the title of the text box to be address number. And then I also want the text of this text box to be dynamic. I wanted to pass in the address number of whatever customer we use to get to this page. And to do that, we'll define a query string, which is essentially variables that you can pass from web page to web page. And this query string is going to be the address number of the customer. So we're going to pass in an address number, and then we want to pre-fill this address number text box with that value. And so we'll make it a dynamic value, and it's going to come from the query string. And it's going to be the address number query string.
That means when a sales rep presses to place a sales order, they know the address number, which means they know the pricing, they know the orders they've done. So it makes it just a lot simpler to place the order.
Right. And the last thing that we're going to do with this text box is set a property called enabled to false. In this case, we don't want them changing the address number that was inputted, so they won't be able to edit this text box here. So we'll add another text box here for ship to. And just like the other text box, we're going to add a title here. And same thing with the text, we want to pre-fill to that address number as a default value. So it's going to be another data source, it's going to be the query string, and it's going to be the address number query string. And we'll leave this one editable. We'll just have it default to that address number that was passed in. And the last text box that we need is the customer PO. And for this text box, we're just going to set the title. Okay, and then as mentioned before, we need a submit button at the bottom here. So I'm going to drag and drop a button onto the canvas. I'm going to set the text of the button to submit. And last thing I'm going to do is just center it on the page using a property called horizontal align. Okay, and now let's take a look at the layout. So yeah, here are the text boxes up top. We have the address number, which is not editable, the ship to, and the customer PO. There's nothing in these two text boxes yet, but because we aren't passing any address number in at this moment, but once we navigate to this page from the customers page, there will be an address number filled out here. And we also have the submit button at the bottom here, which doesn't do anything yet, because the last thing we'll have to do is assign logic to this button. So we'll go ahead and hit this gear icon here. And then we're greeted with the logic canvas, which Grant was showing in his slides. So over to the left here, we have all the services that we can use on this logic canvas. The first service that I want to use is a service to get each row of the infinite list here. And to do that, we're going to need a service called getListFields. We'll connect that up to the start node. And if we go inside it, it takes in a couple parameters. List name is going to be the name of the list, which is results. And we don't need a row index. We don't need this variable here. All we need to do is define the fields that we want to get from this, this list, which are, in this case, item number and quantity. All right, and that's all we need to do for this service. And the next service that we want to call is the actual Orchestrator REST call. So we'll drag on over this request here. We'll connect that up. And for this, we'll just need to define the URL, which I have right over here, the URL of the Orchestrator.
And that comes from Orchestrator when you generate it.
Right. And the method here is going to be a post. And HTTP content is going to be the input of the Orchestrator, which Grant showed a version of earlier, but as you can see, these red and blue values are dynamic. So this is grabbing, for instance, the address number from the query string that we passed in. This is grabbing the ship to field from the text box. And so everything is soft coded here, so that it grabs everything from the web page.
And we could have done this in front of you. It's just a whole bunch of double clicks that you don't need to see, but it's easy to do.
Right, and the last thing that we want to define here is the projected response. This is essentially just the JSON that the Orchestrator is going to pass back to us. And you'll see where we use this later in a second, but yeah, this is the Orchestrator call. That's all we need to do for that one. And the last service that we need to use here is a service called set terminate actions. With this service, you can do any number of things, but in this case, we're going to use it to show a pop-up. Connect that up here. Yeah, as you can see, we can use this to close the window. We can show pop-up messages. We can refresh the windows. We can redirect. In this case, we don't want to close the window, but we do want to show a pop-up message. And the pop-up message will be sales order submitted. And then we also want to show the order number here. We'll say order number. And then over to the left here, we can get the output from different services in our method. So if I expand this Orchestrator call here, it's going to dig through that projected response. And so we can soft code in the order number. So if I double click on that, then the order number will be generated here. And that's going to be the pop-up there. And this is everything that we need to do for the submit button. We'll close out of that. And we're done with this page here. It should be all set. So we'll close out of that. The last thing we need to do is add a hyperlink to this customers page to the sales order page. And so here you can see that list of hyperlinks that's in the list. So I'm going to add another hyperlink here, call it sales order. And if I click on it, we can define some properties again. we can make this an image URL. So I can use this lookup to search through some images that I've uploaded. And I've uploaded the sales order.png here.
And you can upload all the images you want, right? You don't have to use ours. You can use anything you like.
Yep, and then the navigate URL here is just going to be the name of the page that we're navigating to. In this case, it's the submit sales order page. Okay, and a couple more properties that we need to define. For instance, the layout, we're going to make it 40 by 40 to match the rest of the hyperlinks. Then the very last thing that we're doing is defining a parameter. This is going to be the query string that's passed from this page to the sales order page. And if you remember, that is the address number parameter. And the value here is going to come from the data source that generates all the customers. So this is going to be dynamic, and it's going to come from the customer's data source. And it's specifically going to come from this customer's query here, which returns the address number. Right, save and close, and this hyperlink should be all good to go. So I can go into this application by clicking this link right here. And as you can see on this customer's page, there's this new button here. So if we click on it, it should bring us to the sales order page. And it brought on over the address number from that customer in both these text boxes. And we can fill out a customer PO here. Webinar PO 123. And then we can fill out some item numbers. And then if we click on the submit button, it should gather the rows from this list and submit everything to Orchestrator. We'll click on that. And there you go. Sales order was submitted, and this is the order number that we got back from Orchestrator. So I'll go ahead and copy this and go into JD Edwards to show you that it was created. Order number, and here it is. The address numbers here, the sold to names here. Go to the detail revision. You can see those items that we added. Yeah, M001, P001, and the quantities here, and unit price, extended price. So yep, the sales order was successfully created in JD Edwards.
All right, thank you, Ben. Nice work. As you can see, Ben, how many lines of code did you write?
0.
And we got sales order entry from a mobile device into JD Edwards. So if you unshare your screen, I'll share mine. Just have a couple more slides to go through, and then we'll take some questions. First, I want to talk about the king of automation. What we talked about here was this platform that allows you to do stuff. It allows you to automate a lot of the processes that are involved in developing applications, right? You don't have to write code. You don't have to write integration scripts. None of that stuff needs to happen anymore. And Henry has a great quote about buying equipment. So for all intents and purposes, you could do this without us, but every time you do it, it's going to take the same amount of time, or you could do this with a machine and do it in a third the time every single time. And that's why we like building machines, and that's why we like automating. That's why he did. That's why he sold so many cars. So our platform, I think, has all those characteristics of making your life easier, of easily integrating to Edwards, of having the security of DevOps, of no code development for mobile, web, batch jobs, and web services. That said, we want you to try this. We're so excited about this, we're giving it away. If you want to try it, you can fill out this form on our website, krisystems.com/community edition. We will connect it to your instance of JD Edwards for free. We will give you mentoring and all of our training. You can build anything you'd like. You can even go live with it. That said, if you have projects and don't have time, right, we can do it. We've done proof of concepts all the time. If you'd like to see a system and it's a couple days of work for us, we will do it for free. We'll do the same thing. We'll hook up our community edition to your instance. You can show your end users and your stakeholders the art of what's possible. So it doesn't have to be you. We have a full team of professional services developers who can help us. So last but not least, questions, and we have a couple. I'm just going to read them off. Can you do native mobile apps? I said that earlier, but yes, you can. We have containers in both app stores, Google and Apple. And so if you want to do things like scan barcodes, take pictures, do geolocations, all of that's available. So you can do just web browser or native mobile as well. What does EasyProcess cost? I'll get to that at the end, but I will get to it, I promise. So what versions of Orchestrator do you support? We support all of them. I know some people are, on different versions depending on what tools release they're on, but it really just generates the JSON string, so we can support it regardless of which one you're on. Even if you upgrade, it's not that big a deal. Do you have Orchestrator skills? Yeah, we do. So if you have projects, native mobile apps, integration apps, workflow apps that you want to do, and you want to call Orchestrator with them, we can certainly help. And the last question is, can you talk a little more about your workflow before I get to pricing? So yeah, we can. We have an incredibly robust workflow system. And when you talk about building new forms and building custom systems, workflow can become essential. Our workflow can sit over any enterprise application. So if you have JD Edwards and other systems, we can do workflow over all of it. We're actually having a webinar on that coming up in a week or two to discuss it in much better detail. So let's go back to pricing. I'm going to get out of here and then go to our website because our pricing is all published. So if you go here to EasyProcess platform pricing, you can see we start at as little as $11 a month. So the way our pricing model works, it's by production users. So you can have as many developers as you like, as many testers as you like. It's the people using the application. So you can get started for as little as $1,200 to $1,300 a year. And that includes the hosting, that includes all the updates, that includes our workflow, that includes everything that we have. If you have a lot of projects you want to do, we have unlimited pricing as well. And you can scale as you go. So we only want you to pay for what you need to start. So you don't have to go to the management and get $150,000 CapEx to do a single project. You can start and grow with us as your needs change and grow. So I think that's really, really helpful, as a lot of companies now, every project has to pay for itself. You can use this for hundreds of projects, but you shouldn't have to pay for it all up front. And we have eliminated that. So that said, that was the last question. This is my name and my email address. If you have more questions, please shoot me a note or let me know. Once again, thank you so much for your time. Thank you, Ben, for that great demonstration. Take care and have a great day.